So, Palestine action. After the whole decision by the parliament to make it illegal to show any form of support for Palestine action, it's now illegal, obviously, and people obviously are starting to react to that. Thing is, if something is illegal, it is illegal, and you get arrested if you do it. That's as simple as it is. It is what it is. If it says don't do this and you're doing it, unfortunately, you get arrested, as we're about to see in today's video. But before jumping into today's video, if you're new around there and you enjoy the content, it will be massively appreciated if you drop a like and also subscribe to the channel. Let's get right into it.
British police off our streets! British police off our streets!
You see, the thing is, right, this whole ban, it doesn't even say you can't protest for Palestine, you can't show support for Palestine, you can't say end the genocide in Palestine. That's fine, you can do that. Freedom of speech, right? Freedom of expression, for you to be able to peaceful protest. But it's the whole political organization of the whole Palestine action has been deemed terrorist, not because of one action, by the way. After actually looking at it, when you look deep into the reasons why it's been classed as a terrorist group, it's actually many reasons why. It's been multiple occasions where these people have actually caused vandalism and some form of damage to the government's equipment. That's why it's not just one thing. I've actually looked back and actually thought, oh, because my position was previously, I don't think it's fair. But looking back at the things they've actually done, I'm like, okay, relax. You can still peacefully protest, but not Palestine action. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Free Palestine!
She's still saying free Palestine.
Genocide! I oppose genocide.
I'm sure the reason why they've arrested her isn't because she's saying free Palestine. It's her saying I support Palestine action, which obviously has been deemed unacceptable. Like, this isn't encroachment on free speech. It really isn't.
I support rights for Palestinian people. Hold on! I support freedom of speech. I support freedom of speech.
We all do.
Move out the way, please. Guys, watch yourself. It's a live road. Yeah?
Human rights.
In mind for the traffic.
I oppose genocide.
Rather than carrying Leg down, leg down. No, you're happy with the search. Good search.
Oh my god. It's kind of crazy how many people actually carrying that.
Let's get her, I'd suggest getting one of that.
What I would suggest is that instead of lumping Palestine action with two other groups who are violent, that they tell the truth that the Palestine action group is non-violent.
Okay,
See, you can say that, but it's just not true. It literally isn't the case at all. All this takes is a simple Google search. What is the reason why Palestine action has been deemed illegal? It's a simple search. You will find everything. There's been multiple occasions where these people, they've actually caused some form of destructive action towards government equipment and buildings. That's the reason why. You can't do that. If you're doing that to get a political goal, causing violence for a specific political goal, that is terrorism. You can't be doing that, regardless, even if it's not on a human being, regardless of how small it is. It's happening continuously on multiple occasions. That's act of terrorism. You can't do that. You can protest, but you can't do that. It's a simple Google search will literally tell you the reason why.
Wearing a Palestine action badge, are you worried about being part of the arrest here today?
Well, I was quite prepared to be arrested. I started to talk to journalists, and that seemed to end with me not being arrested.
Interesting. Are you worried about lengthy prison sentences for other actions?
My wife has just been arrested. Obviously, the punishment is huge, and there will be more people who follow in this footsteps, I believe, as Gandhi did with the same kind of protest, and until, of course, the government recognise that they are picking on a non-violent group, and that's a mistake. It's a tactical mistake to lump a group like this with terrorists. You have to have distinction and clarity about what should...
There's a reason why you're not getting arrested. There's a reason why lots of people behind you are not getting arrested. You clearly know the distinction, but you're acting oblivious to it.
Doing as a government.
Yeah, not sure about that Gandhi comparison there. Well, look, I care about freedom of speech, even from people I vehemently disagree
Don't know about that, but
with.
sure.
I will always fight for everyone's right to have a voice and have their voice heard. But you won't be surprised to find out that some of them there were ready to put a stop to that. Condemn Palestine actions, vandalism.
I will bring it to an end. 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 He's gonna go away.
They don't want
Okay.
to. Okay. Do you have a message for us?
No. Freedom of speech. Oh my God.
Oh yes, the irony of protesting in favour of your freedom of speech for your organisation whilst trying to shut down freedom of speech itself. Interesting that. We're seeing these protests happening constantly now. Of course, this big moment last night when the government passed its ruling that this was a terrorist organisation, that landed at 12 o'clock tonight, and this group has decided that it would be a good idea to go in, obviously potentially get arrested and put up to 14 years in prison. Now, many of those people there would say that that is an act of fascism. Do you agree with them?
No. I think that if you are going to plan anything as an organisation which is going to veer into national security territory, then you're going to find yourself on a watch list fairly quickly in order that the security services can monitor you effectively enough. And we saw this, I think, in the tail end of the 90s, the early noughties, with animal rights activists who also had to be monitored fairly heavily by the security services because of the violence that they were planning.
Yeah, that literally is like, you can't discount the fact that you have been committing a level of violence. That cannot be taken away in this whole discussion. Like, this is an unfair thing to do. I don't really think it is.
I think what I find fascinating about the crowd who are...
But I would say you can make argument that, hey, Palestine, like, you know, they need to be freed, whatever. You can still protest because you have the free speech to do so. You can absolutely still do that. But there's just a section. Palestine Action, by the way, doesn't represent every single person that is supporting Palestine. That's something that's very important. They don't represent everyone. So it's like you're not actually trying to erase every single support for Palestine.
Of protesting today is, from the shots that you see online, the number of them who were also protesting with Extinction Rebellion. There's certainly an old retired vicar there who was famous for protesting with Extinction Rebellion, and I think many of these people are basically retired, bored perma-protesters.
Yeah.
And I find that to be an extraordinary way to spend your retirement.
Yeah.
Have you not considered, a trip to Italy? Or
a trip to Italy.
probably cost you less in jail time.
But Paul, does Keir Starmer have a problem here? Obviously, he's had to grapple with a lot of protests and rioting since he came into office just a year ago today, actually. Do you think he's going to be deemed as this sort of fascist leader because he's had to deal with so much of it within the course of a year?
Well, if you work in and around Westminster, you'll know, there is a protest on Parliament Square and outside Parliament every single day of the week, all the time. Sometimes it's Palestine, could be animal rights, could be free Tibet. It's all going on. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it.
The issue here are the people who think it's legit to smash stuff up, to disrupt the workings of factories, to, as we know, potentially disrupt military equipment as well, allegedly. And, that is over a line, isn't it? But I've, been in and around the left for a long time now. There is a kind of certain psychology here of people who are perma-protesters. They couldn't point to the River Jordan on a map. It's not really about Palestine at all. It's just about this sort of narcissistic, self-serving kind of attitude. And I would say those of us that actually do want to see a two-state solution and a peaceful resolution, these people are one of the main obstacles.
I think that's exactly the point.
I do think it's probably counterintuitive to the whole goal that these people are actually trying to get. If you're trying to make sure that, hey, like, whatever goal you're trying to get to, you don't go to that goal by doing this. Like there's just not, it doesn't serve the end goal you're trying to get at all. If anything, it just puts the whole attention on you rather than with the message you're trying to actually get out there. That's the problem. It doesn't, no one focuses on the message. People just focus on what you're doing and you. That's the problem.
That's exactly nail on the head, because you really detract from the fact that there is a really big problem with the disproportionate attack on the Gazan people, I think, by the Israelis. I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that I do not understand that October the 7th was a heinous attack and deplorable and the worst thing that's happened to the Israeli nation since the Holocaust. But the fact is, it's generally agreed, in military circles at least, that this is a disproportionate attack. And that point needs to be seriously made. And it's not helped by that woman saying, well, I'd be happy to go to jail for 14 years to see if...
Literally, how does that help you? Now you don't have it, freedom of speech is gone now. Freedom to protest is gone. Now you're not even in the whole, you're not even involved in anything that even helps your own goal anymore. So how does that even help you? Genuinely.
Also, I think brainwashed as well.
I want to ask Lauren this as well, because obviously, before the ruling, I want to make this very, very clear. Before the ruling, Zara Sultana was in Parliament, but before she defected to this new defected, is that the right word? Because there's not really a party there at the moment, is there? But announced that she was co-leading, then not co-leading, or something happened there.
I mean, I think it's the fastest we've ever seen a sort of a left split.
Yeah.
That Monty Python sketch with the People's Liberation Front of Judea, and it's the fastest I think we've ever seen one.
But she
but I went to SOAS.
Well, okay, well, fair enough. So when she was in Parliament saying I think she said, and I will check that I'm quoted correctly on this, we are all Palestine for action, or something along those lines in Parliament.
It's covered by parliamentary privilege, that is. So
sure, well, that's a good point, actually, Paul. But do you not think now, with this new potential party arising, that we're going to see more of this? This is never ending.
I think that there's a part of the left that's a perma-protest party. I think there's a part of the right that's permanently incensed by everything that's happened after 1968. And I think that those are just extremes of both sides that we have to deal with on the right and the left.
At the end of the day, I think people generally, they know that the violent part of the whole Palestinian action probably isn't acceptable. They might not admit that, but I think deep down you would know. Because at the end of the day, protest is supposed to be peaceful, right? Generally, people would know that, but they just won't admit it because they feel that there's a bigger problem that is not being paid, that attention isn't being put on, right? They believe what's happening in Gaza, the attention isn't on there, and there isn't some form of solution over there. So therefore, whatever is happening over here, it pales at what's going on over there. So therefore, whatever we're doing, it shouldn't even concern you. I think that's generally the thought process. But deep down, if you ask them, do you think if you protest, do you think you should be able to cause violence? I think they would generally say no. So generally, they do know that, but they've just got to get that idea out of their head that regardless of what we do, what's going on over there is really bad. So therefore, you should never criminalize us. Violence and terrorism cannot be allowed under any circumstance, regardless of how small it is. But that's just my thoughts. If you're new around there, subscribe to each other, and also it would be massively appreciated if you drop a like on the video.